Well, thank you for joining us on the morning edition here on Market Day Report. I'm Marlon Bowling with you, and we're going to be taking a look at your grain and livestock market activity now that the futures are off and running. And in fact, let's go ahead and go to the grain board and see what's going on. We'll take a peek first at our corn prices this morning. And the corn was a little bit weaker overnight, but first of all, this morning, we're just down a penny. We have the May contract at $3.69. We have the new crop December down a penny and a half at $3.85 3/4. In the soybean trade this morning, in the early going, we have the May down 2 3/4, a little more pressure here. We're at 907 3/4, and new crop November is down 3 1/4 at 919 1/2. What about that wheat trade? Everybody's been watching that with all the weather impacts on the wheat. Well, now we weren't that firm overnight, but now we have May Chicago wheat up 6 at 469. And we have July 5 3/4 higher. What about Kansas City? Well, there we have the May contract now 5 1/2 higher at 477 1/4. And July now up 5 1/2 at 488 1/4. And Minneapolis spring wheat trade, we have the May up just 1 3/4 and July 1 3/4 higher at 524 1/4. Here to help us sort it all out, we bring in Dewey Strickler. He's with AgWatch Market Advisors. He's based in Franklin, Kentucky. And Dewey, thanks for joining us here on a Monday. A little bit of a surprise as far as the strength in that wheat market here in the early going. Any idea why?
Well, we've got a little bit of a dry forecast in over the next several days here in the southern plains. That's given the market just a little bit of a lift. And for the past several sessions, we've just basically been held to a trading range in wheat. So we're seeing a little bit of a bounce occur here.
All right, now we have a big set of government reports coming out at the end of the month. On the 31st, we get the quarterly stocks report, the grain stocks report. Also, our prospective plantings report coming out from USDA, and everybody's going to be getting positioned for that. And I guess the market is going to have to hurry and try and bid up for acres between the corn and soybeans and cotton before that report comes out.
Well, I think the bean market did a good job bidding up for some acres last week. I was a little bit surprised when I looked at the Commitment of Traders report, and it showed that the funds bought about 215 million bushels of wheat, and they are long about 80 million bushels now. Heading into this report, we need to see a bullish report in soybeans.
Dewey, what's your take on the fact that we're coming up on the end of a trading month, but also the end of a trading quarter here? So does that mean we're going to have some unusual action this week ahead of those reports, where you might see a little more profit taking than what you normally would do?
Wouldn't be surprised if that isn't the case. Just as you said, we're looking at end of the month, also end of the quarter, and of course these fund managers get paid at the end of the month and get a bonus at the end of the quarter if they've done well for that particular quarter.
So do you think in your opinion they're going to have a lot of profit to be able to show, or are they just trying to reduce their losses maybe?
I think they're probably trying to reduce some of their losses here. As I said, you know, the funds are a little bit surprised. They're long 80 million bushels here at this time. It's quite a bit of a flip-flop here. And, of course, if this market starts to back off, they're going to have to protect those positions pretty quickly.
All right, I do want to take a look at our cotton prices here as we head toward the break. In the cotton right now, we have that nearby May contract down 33 points on the day. So far, it's trading at 57.39, and July is down 33 as well. It's trading at 57.25. We're going to pause for a little break, and when we come back, we'll talk more with Dewey Strickler of AgWatch Market Advisors, and we'll talk about this livestock trade when we come back right after this message. Well, we're back with you on the Market Day Report. I'm Marlon Bowling with you, and we're talking right now with our very special guest, Mr. Dewey Strickler. He's with AgWatch Market Advisors, and he's based in Franklin, Kentucky. All right, we're going to talk about the livestock trade here, Dewey. And it was an interesting thing that happened last week where we had no trade to report on Friday, no livestock futures, but we did have USDA actually working, and they released their quarterly hogs and pigs report. That came out, and it was an unusual time, too. It came out earlier than they normally would for a livestock report. And in that report, it showed 100% on each and every category all across the board over there. So in the hog trade, do you think that's going to have any impact here this morning or not?
Oh, I don't think it's going to have much of an impact at all. It pretty well fell right in line with what the trade was looking for here, and so I think, you know, you can pretty well just take the report as grain of salt, and we'll be, trading business as usual.
Well, on the futures trade, as we get things rolling here today, we have that nearby April contract. It is absolutely unchanged at 69.62, so no change there at all. The May contract is up 65 this morning at 77.30, and now you have your June, which, from what I understand, Dewey, is probably the most active contract on the hogs. It's 27 higher at 81.12 here this morning. Not a big gain to report at all, but it sounds like maybe the trade was a little bit relieved that we didn't see any herd expansion, at least in that report.
I think that is kind of the thing that you might say here, Marlin, is that we're not really looking at any thrills or frills from the report here, and I think probably when you're looking at your June hogs here, it does look like we have a top in the market here for a bit. Of course, the cutout values were down last week, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the June hogs take a little bit of a break of about a couple of bucks or so.
Okay, let's switch gears and go to the cattle side. Let's go to the live cattle futures this morning. And boy, talk about a quiet market. April live cattle up just 2 pennies at 135.87. June is 22 higher now at 125.60 this morning. August up just 3 cents at 120.85. Meanwhile, on the feeder cattle side, here we have the futures on April up 38 at 156.20. The May is 36 higher at 155.38. I guess the good news here, Dewey, is that at least we are seeing plus signs here on the cattle complex after having better part of a week on the downward side. They did come back late Thursday. But is that a sign that maybe things have stabilized here before the bottom fell out?
Well, we are a little bit oversold short term. I think your cattle market basis, the April contract, could see a bounce of about $1.50 to $2 here. But when I look at where steer weights are rising here a little bit, they're up about 8 pounds. That's going to keep, I think, rallies pretty well in check for a while. Well,
as far as the cash cattle trade went last week, looked like we were only getting about 136 out there in the plains. They're asking about 140 today, the way it sounds, maybe, but the trade was so light. It just wasn't really hardly even enough to even make a good market trend out there. It looks like the prices would have been maybe $1 lower than what we had last week?
Yeah, that's right. We got off, and didn't have very much trade. We'll probably see a little bit trade this week, but we were down, about 5 consecutive sessions. So I think, your professional traders are going to be a little reluctant to push the market much lower at these levels.
All right, interesting. All right, thanks, Dewey. I appreciate that. Dewey Strickler with AgWatch Market Advisors in Franklin, Kentucky. Great guy to talk to. If you want to get more market information, just tell him Marlin sent you.
There you go. And certainly good details to have here on the print side of the week.
You bet.